Hello all out there in YouTube, and welcome back to the most professional channel here on YouTube. Say hello to Brooklyn. As you can see, I'm still at Brooklyn's house for now, so I have to apologize for the constant licking and the if the audio is off and if the lighting is weird, just because this is the best place to film in this house. But hey, here's a happy poodle, so hopefully that'll make everything better. So it's been a very busy week for me and I didn't have much time for anything else. So I decided for this week's video I just wanted to do a simple random horror recommendations video. This is the series that I like to do every now and again where I go over some of the movies that I've checked out in the past few months and give you a couple of recommendations for horror movies that I think might be worth your time. So let's not dilly-dally any longer and let's get into the movies. 3 movies to talk about, just like every time I do this. So the first movie we're talking about today is a horror movie from South Korea that came out in 2021 called Midnight. If you were a fan of the movie Hush that came out in 2016, directed by Mike Flanagan, I think you'll like this one. The movie Hush is about this deaf writer who is in a cabin in the middle of the woods working on a project, who is being stalked by this masked killer. And the movie, you know, deals with that whole situation. It becomes basically a home invasion movie with this guy going into her house and her trying to fend this guy off. But the danger is increased because she can't hear, so it makes the situation more dangerous for her. There's a similarity to Midnight because both movies involve a killer going after a deaf person. But Midnight expands the setting and makes this a kind of a bigger story. We have this deaf woman who is meeting with her mother one night, and as they're hanging out, they witness this serial killer attacking a woman, and then the woman disappears, and the movie goes on from there as you have this killer trying to get this deaf woman because she witnessed his crime. But it's a little more involved than that because the woman didn't get the best look at the guy at first. There's this interesting scene in the first act where she's at the police station trying to tell the cops what she saw because her mother did not see it. She is the only one who saw it, and she's deaf, so she can't speak. And these police officers don't know sign language, so she's trying to communicate to them what she saw, but she can't communicate in the same way that other people can, at least not in a way that these police officers can understand. And what I really like about this movie is the killer is smart. The woman is smart as well. They're both intelligent in their own ways. It's not like they're both super geniuses, but they are both characters are able to think on their feet so that when they are put into a situation, they're able to think quickly to get themselves out of that situation. So at first, the serial killer is disguising himself as a person who was kind of a witness to the crime because, again, she didn't get a good look at him, and he's using that to manipulate the situation to steer the cops away from him as a suspect. And there's situations like that all the time. There gets to a point where she eventually realizes that this guy is the killer, and they're, going back and forth she's trying to convince people that he's a killer, but again, she can't communicate it the same way, so he's able to get ahead of that and manipulate the situation in his favor. I've always been fascinated by sign language, and one of the things I find fascinating about sign language is every country's sign language is different. Just like every country has a different verbal language, every other country has a different sign language. American Sign Language is not the same as French Sign Language. French Sign Language is not the same as South Korean Sign Language. That's one of the things I find so fascinating about it. I've been trying to learn American Sign Language. I don't know much. All I can remember off the top of my head is hello, how are you, nice to meet you, I think this is ready, and there's various other signs that I know, but I forgot most of what I've been trying to learn, just because I find it so interesting. But anyway, but this movie does take advantage of the fact that we have this woman who can't hear and this serial killer who's trying to get her, and they both have their own intelligence in some way. They're both able to think fast. And like with Hush, you had this one cabin that was the location. In Midnight, you have this whole city that is used as a location. And there are a couple of spots where there's no one else out on the streets, but there are situations where there are people out on the street. And both the deaf woman is trying to, get people's attention, and the killer is trying to make it seem like the deaf woman is the one who's crazy, and because, again, she can't communicate in certain ways, makes for some very suspenseful situations. But you also have her mother involved in this whole, in these circumstances. And you have the brother of the woman who has disappeared, who was attacked by the serial killer. He's involved in it as well. And he's a bit of a hothead, so there are times where, he unintentionally makes the situation worse because he lets his emotions get the better of him. But again, he's not necessarily a stupid character. He's just a character who reacts with his emotions rather than trying to think with his head, if that makes any sense. But this is a very well done thriller. The only issue I have with it is there's not a big body count in the film, and that's not a big deal. That's not the problem. There are plenty of great horror movies and thrillers out there that don't have a big body count. There are plenty of great horror movies that have no body count out there. The issue is not that the movie has a small body count. The issue is that I think it would have been more effective if certain people died. I don't want to give anything more than that, but it was like if certain people were killed in the movie, then there would have been more of an impact overall. But as a simple little serial killer horror thriller, this is very well done. One of my main issues with Hush, which I liked Hush, I thought it was very good, but and this might be a bit of a spoiler for Hush, but it gets to the point where early on in the film, the killer takes his mask off, and I thought that once the killer stopped wearing his mask, it made it less scary for me. But there are things that Hush did better than Midnight, and there are things that Midnight did better than Hush. I don't think one movie is better than the other. I think they both are good in different ways. So if you liked Hush, I think you will like Midnight. Give that movie a shot. A very good horror thriller from South Korea. It's a solid movie that would be worth your time. Next up, we have this odd little horror movie called Anonymous Animals. This is an interesting little movie. It's not a movie for everybody, but I think everyone should check it out at least once because it is handled in an interesting way. This is a French movie that came out in 2021. Like I said, it's called Anonymous Animals, and basically what you have here is a movie where humans and animals kind of switch places. You have... there's no real story for the movie. We're just kind of seeing... It's like seeing a moment in time in this world where animals are people and people are treated like animals. And we're just seeing these different situations where these various humans are dealing with these animals, putting them in some cruel situations. So it is an interesting look at this, seeing how animals are treated through treating humans like animals. And the whole thing about it is the humans they don't really act like full-blown animals. They still act like humans, but maybe with a lesser degree of intelligence to some extent. They still wear clothes. They still look like normal everyday people. And then you have the animals of this movie, which I do think this could have been handled a little better, but I have the feeling that they didn't have a huge budget for this movie. Not to say that this is a micro-budget movie. There was definitely some money involved, but you can tell it was a lower-budget movie because certain things are a little rough around the edges. The animals are literally just people with animal heads, wearing some kind of animal masks, and a lot of these animal masks don't move too much. There are some that look good, some that look like they look a little rough. There are some animal masks that have more movement, others that don't. So you can tell there wasn't a ton of money involved in this film. So you can tell that they were working with what they had. But yeah, the animals are basically just humans with animal heads. You have this slaughterhouse run by a cow and a horse. You have this deer who is hunting someone. You don't really know who. It doesn't clarify too much until closer to the end. And then you have this dog that takes in this person and eventually takes this guy and uses him in a dog fighting ring or a person fighting ring in this situation. Those are mild spoilers, but I don't think it's too bad because, you know, just to know what you're getting into throughout this film. But what I really respect about this movie is there's absolutely no dialogue. The animals grunt and bark every now and again, but there's no real dialogue in this movie, which is a bold choice for any film. You know, like back in when films started, you had silent films where everyone was overacting to try and get out the emotions and the thoughts of the scene. And then as sound came back into film, you know, people were able to actually say what's going on, actually say what they feel. And I love dialogue. I love good dialogue. I love fun dialogue. I love dialogue that, you know, there's dialogue out there that focuses more on being entertaining than good, and I appreciate that as well. I love all forms of dialogue. And, but I really respect when actors don't use dialogue. You know, like when you have actors that, you know, when you don't have a lot of dialogue in the movie and the actors have to portray what's going on through face acting, through the emotions of their movements, and through actions. And, because that's harder to do. It's one thing to act with your voice, it's another thing to act with just your face and just your body language and just your actions. So I have a lot of respect for that, and I appreciate that this film did that. A lot of the humans in this movie do a good job at acting without words, which, and that was an interesting way for this movie to handle that, you know, since, yes, it's this idea that the animals have taken the place of the humans, so the humans don't talk and the animals kind of talk, but it's mostly through barks and growls and grunts and stuff like that. The only thing I do wish this movie leaned a little more into the animalistic nature of the humans, because the humans, they're all wearing clothes, they're all standing upright like people, they're all still acting like people, just people that don't talk and maybe have a little less intelligence than a normal person. I wish they went all out with that. I wish, like, not saying that you need a bunch of naked people running around to make a movie good, but if you're having these, you know, people act like animals, have them be, like, more animal-like. Have them walk around on all fours. Have them, you know, actually acting like animals. Have them not wear clothes and stuff like that. I think that would have made the movie a little more effective. But anyway, but what we get here is still interesting. Like, I do wish the movie explored things a little more, because it explores these ideas, but not enough. And yes, while you can tell that this movie had a small budget, I don't think a small budget is an excuse for not taking advantage of your ideas, because I've seen movies that clearly have a much smaller budget than this one, even though I don't know exactly what the budget was. But there are movies out there that you can tell had a much smaller budget than Anonymous Animals that take full advantage of their idea. And while this movie, I don't want to say it didn't take advantage of its idea, it did. It just could have done a little more, I think. But what we have here is still interesting, and the movie is like 64 minutes long, so it's not a long sit. The cinematography is great. Like I said, the acting is very well done, especially since these people couldn't use dialogue. Anonymous Animals is a movie that I think everyone should see at least once. I don't know if I would watch it again, but I'm glad I watched it because it was a different idea. They did, you know, give us an interesting film, something a little different, even though this idea has been explored before, but this is an interesting take on that idea. You know, the filmmakers did try with this one, and while I don't think they 100% succeeded, I do think they should be, you know, they should be rewarded for their efforts in some way, you know, so check this film out. It is worth watching at least once. Like I said, it's only 64 minutes long, so it's not a long sit. So yeah, check out Anonymous Animals. Worth watching at least once for something interesting. And the final movie we're going to talk about in this video is a movie called Girly from 1970. This is another odd movie, but not odd in the same way as Nocturnal Animals. There's a story you can get here, and there's plenty of dialogue in this one. But it is weird, but in a good way. Sometimes this movie goes under the title Mumsy, Nanny, Sonny, and Girly. And what you have is this family who is nuts. But it's not one of those insane families like you would see in Texas Chainsaw Massacre or The Hills Have Eyes. They come across as this very civilized family, but you can clearly tell they're off their rocker. They try to come across as the perfect family. Being very polite, they have certain rules for the household. Mumsy and Nanny have this interesting relationship. And of course, Sonny and Girly have this interesting relationship. Sonny and Girly are pretty much adults, or at least they are like on that border of teenager and adulthood, but they act like children. And pretty much everybody in this house, they try to act like this perfect family. And what they do is they go out and they recruit certain people, like bums and hippies and people that basically wouldn't be missed. And they bring them home, mostly male figures, and they bring these guys back to their house to indoctrinate them in their perfect family. But if these people if they destroy the illusion, if they try to destroy the illusion of the perfect family, or they break certain rules, or they don't agree to role play this perfect family member, they are sent to the angels, as the characters in this movie say. And we have this guy who is brought into the house, he is kidnapped. He is manipulated to come into this house, and he soon learns of what's happening here. And he starts trying to manipulate this family and turn them against each other so that he may eventually be able to escape. So yeah, that's the basic plot of this movie, but it is a little more involved than that. And we're basically just watching the life of this crazy family as this outsider has been brought in, and he's trying to find a way to manipulate the situation to his advantage once he realizes that this is not the best situation for him to be in. And it's a really good watch. This is a movie, this movie doesn't have a high body count, but there is a bit of a body count. This isn't some wall-to-wall gore fest. This is mostly just this weird little horror movie that is handled very well, and it's weird it's weird in a good way, weird in a fascinating way. You're just seeing the life of this crazy family, and seeing how this guy is trying to live his life in this family. And of course you have the question of why don't, the people that they bring into this family, why don't those outsiders just leave? Why don't they try to leave? Well, they do try to leave in certain circumstances, but this family has ways of keeping them in this house or on this property. And it's just so intriguing watching this family dynamic, because again, the two kids, Sonny and Girly, are basically adults, or at least old enough to be adults, but they act very, very childish. But at the same time, because they're old enough to be adults, they, Girly will, be interested in some sexier things, but it's uncomfortable because of the fact that her mind is so, I don't want to say she's mentally challenged. I would say that, she really embraces this role of Girly in this family, and that's what makes certain situations uncomfortable. It never goes too far. It is a pretty reserved horror movie, even though it is rated R, but nothing in it is really graphic. Everything in it is more suggested in many ways, and it never oversteps too many bounds it doesn't overstep too many boundaries to get to the point where people would be uncomfortable. I mean, I'm fine with disturbing movies. I'm fine with movies that explore more darker and more fucked up subject matter, but not everybody does. And I understand that everyone has limits. Girly is not a movie that would go over anyone's limits. But then you have this outsider who's only known as new friend, seeing how things work in this household and then being able to manipulate all these people in certain ways. So, you know, you are on his side in many ways, but then you also know that these people are not right in the head, so things could turn against him at any moment, and he could be sent to the angels. And it's the fact that this family tries to come across as so prim and proper and so, like, nice, trying to be the perfect family, it makes everything creepier in a way, because, you know, they're trying to come across as perfect, as proper, but you know, right underneath, there's this insanity that wants to break out. It's like with Annie Wilkes in Misery. You know, she comes across as so nice and so polite and so, you know, but you find out that she's nuts, and then she has these moments where she explodes. The characters in this do explode in certain ways or another, but it's kind of a reserved explosion, if that makes any sense. It does have some legitimately suspenseful moments, but most of the suspense comes from the situation of this guy trying not to break the rules, but also trying to manipulate the other characters. But yeah, Girly, highly recommend that one. Out of the 3 movies I'm talking about here, I would put them in the order, like, Girly would be at the top, Midnight would be in the next one, and then Anonymous Animals would be at the bottom, even though I do think it's worth seeing at least once. But yeah, of all the movies in this video, I highly recommend Girly. Girly is really good, really odd, but in a good way. Yeah, just check this one out. Check this one out if you just want a good, creepy, suspenseful little horror movie. A good, weird little horror movie, is a better way to describe this. Yeah, so if you just want a good, weird little horror movie, check out Girly. You know, it's not abstract in any way, but it is odd. It's a quirky horror movie. So, and if you like quirky horror movies, I'd say check out Girly. And yeah, that's it for this week's video. 3 recommendations of movies that you might want to check out. Next week we'll hopefully have a better video for you guys. It is a busy week, and it's going to be a busy next couple of weeks, but hopefully we'll get something out next week that's not just a simple video like this. But anyway, thank you all so much for watching. Brooklyn is sleeping over there, so I'm not going to bother her, but here's a video of Brooklyn. Tell her she's a good girl. Yeah, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all so much for the continued support. It does truly mean so much to me that you take time out of your day to watch my little videos. That really does mean a lot. In the comments down below, let me know some of the horror movies that you've checked out in the past couple of months that you think are worth seeing. Yeah. So on that note, thank you again so much for watching, and until next time, this is the Maniac, here to remind you that the Grindhouse will never die.